In the heart of the city, a multi-story office building stood like a lonely monolith. With its gray concrete facade and broken windows, the building had been in a state of disrepair for years. The rusty doors creaked in the wind, and cobwebs covered the dusty stair railings. Rumors about the building said it was haunted, and no one dared venture inside. David, a pragmatic and skeptical man by nature, had heard these rumors countless times. He thought that stories about ghosts and supernatural presences were nothing more than meaningless superstitions. For him, the abandoned building was just an example of urban decline with no hidden mystery. However, as rumors about the building grew, David began to wonder if there was something more behind the deteriorating facade. Stories of moving shadows on the walls, whispering sighs in the hallways, and mysterious lights that glowed in the windows at night intrigued him. As an amateur photographer and aspiring documentary filmmaker, he saw an opportunity to prove that all these reports were simply figments of people's imaginations. One night, David decided it was time to investigate the abandoned office for himself. He packed a backpack with a flashlight, a digital camera, and an audio recorder. His intention was to explore the building and record any evidence of paranormal activity he could find. He felt confident that, with the right tools and his skepticism, he could debunk the myths surrounding the building. The abandoned office was located on a deserted street where the old businesses had long ago closed their doors. The darkness of night enveloped the building as David approached. The wind whistled through the broken windows, creating a melancholy sound that echoed in the darkness. With a mixture of excitement and apprehension, David pushed open the rusty door and entered the building. The loud sound of the door closing behind him echoed through the deserted lobby. In the light of the flashlight, he saw the abandoned state of the place: faded carpets, dusty furniture, and piles of forgotten documents. As he explored the empty hallways, David began to feel a strange sensation, as if he were being watched. He swung the flashlight from side to side, looking for any sign of life. Only dust and cobwebs met his eyes. However, as he advanced, whispers began to penetrate his ears. They were indistinct voices, whispering unintelligible words. David frowned and tried to locate the source of the whispers, but they seemed to come from all directions, as if the walls of the building were whispering long-buried secrets. He continued his exploration, his digital camera recording every dark, dusty corner. As he got deeper into the building, the whispers seemed to grow in intensity. It was as if the building itself was trying to communicate something, but the words escaped its understanding. When David reached a staircase leading upstairs, he hesitated. The feeling of being watched increased, and the whispers became more audible. Despite his skeptical nature, he began to wonder if there was something more to the building than he could explain. David climbed the stairs cautiously, his flashlight illuminating the path in front of him. The whispers continued to echo in the empty corridors, like a symphony of indistinct voices. He felt a shiver run down his spine as he walked forward, trying to ignore the feeling that he wasn't alone in the abandoned building. As he explored the upper floor, David noticed that the walls were adorned with framed portraits of employees from the past. The faces in the photos seemed to look right at him, their steady eyes following him as he passed. The unsettling look of the images added a sense of restlessness to his journey. David's flashlight revealed a series of closed doors, each leading to a dark, unfamiliar room. He hesitated for a moment before opening the first door, revealing a dusty meeting room with chairs turned upside down and yellowing papers scattered across the table. As he scanned the room, the whispers seemed to intensify. It was as if the voices were closer than ever. He looked around, but there was no one in sight. The feeling that something was wrong oppressed him. David continued his exploration, opening doors one by one. Every room was empty and dusty, but the whispers continued, echoing through the halls like a distant echo. He began to wonder if the whispers were real or if they were being created by his own mind, affected by the dark environment of the abandoned building. When he reached a larger room at the end of the hall, the whispers reached a new crescendo. They echoed in his mind, indistinct words that seemed to form an incessant murmur. David felt an icy shiver run down his spine, but his curiosity drove him into the room. The inside of the room was even stranger than he expected. A long conference table was covered in dust, and stacked documents took up almost all the available space. In the center of the room, A chair was turned away from him, as if someone had just stood up. David approached the chair cautiously, feeling like he was being watched by invisible eyes. Just as he was about to turn the chair around to face what was behind it, an icy presence enveloped his body. He tried to move away, but his body was paralyzed, as if he was under the control of some unknown force. The chair began to slowly rotate, revealing a pale, shadowy figure sitting on it. The figure's face was hidden in shadow, but its eyes shone with an unearthly light. A voice whispered in his mind, as if the figure was speaking directly into his head. The figure said, "You dared to disturb this place, intruder? Now you belong there." David fought to regain control of his body, but the dark presence had a hold on him. His movements were slow and clumsy, and he couldn't look away from the shadowy figure. The room seemed to distort around him, as if he were being pulled into another dimension. Desperate to escape the evil influence, David began reciting words of protection that he remembered from ancient stories. The shadowy figure growled and tried to stop him, but David continued to chant with increasing determination. With one last effort, he managed to break through the dark hold and ran out of the room. The whispers and shadows chased him as he fled the abandoned office, but he didn't look back. As he finally emerged from the building, David was shaking and covered in sweat. He knew that he had faced something terrible and inexplicable. His digital camera captured disturbing images, proving that the abandoned office was indeed haunted. David never returned to the building, and his experience turned him from a skeptic into someone who knew that there were things in the world that the human mind could not understand. The abandoned office remained a dark enigma in his memory, reminding him that sometimes mysteries are best left unexplored, as the consequences can be too terrifying to bear. David ran down the hallway of the abandoned building, his legs shaking as he fled the dark presence that had briefly captured him. The whispers and shadows continued to pursue him, as if trying to drag him back into the darkness of the room. Finally, he emerged into the main lobby, panting and disoriented. The flashlight in his hand shook violently, casting dancing shadows on the dusty walls. He knew he needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. As he ran toward the front door, he heard a whisper behind him, as if the shadowy figure was still nearby. His footsteps echoed through the empty lobby as he approached the rusty door. With one last effort, he pushed open the door and found himself outside in the cool night air of the city. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The feeling that something evil was watching him still haunted him, but he was free from the dark interior of the building. David walked slowly down the deserted sidewalk, trying to process what had just happened. He knew that the shadowy figure he had encountered was not a mere illusion, but something genuinely supernatural. His images captured by the digital camera were tangible proof of the inexplicable. As he walked, he heard a voice whispering in his mind, a voice that was not that of the shadowy figure. It was a soft and melodic voice, which seemed to float in the air like a distant echo. The voice said, "You are the first in years to escape the room. There is something special about you." David stopped abruptly, looking around for the source of the voice. But there was no one in sight. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, as if it were a part of the building itself. He responded hesitantly, "Who are you? What's going on here?" The voice whispered again, "I am an ancient presence, bound to this place. You have piqued my curiosity, David. There are deep, dark secrets in this building that few know about. Do you wish to discover them?" David was intrigued, even though he was aware that he was dealing with something beyond his understanding. He responded cautiously, "What do you want from me?" The voice replied, "I want you to continue to explore this building, to discover the secrets that are hidden in the shadows. There are ancient mysteries that need to be revealed. Are you brave enough to accept the challenge?" David considered the offer. For a moment, he knew he was dealing with something supernatural and dangerous, but his curiosity compelled him to continue. He replied with determination, "Yes, I accept the challenge. I want to discover the truth behind this place." The voice seemed satisfied with his answer. She whispered, "Very well, David. The journey you are about to undertake will be fraught with danger and revelation. This building hides secrets that could change your understanding of reality. Be prepared." With that, the voice disappeared, leaving David alone on the dark sidewalk. He knew he had embarked on a journey that would take him to unknown places and face challenges he could not even imagine. But curiosity and the search for the truth drove him to continue, even if it led him to explore the abandoned office's darkest secrets. David continued his exploration of the abandoned building, increasingly shrouded in dark and supernatural mysteries. The mysterious voice that had summoned him still echoed in his mind, guiding him through the dark corridors and dusty rooms. As he progressed, David began to notice patterns in the shadows surrounding him. It seemed as if the very walls of the building were alive, with shadowy figures moving in the shadows, dancing to an ancient and macabre rhythm. He used his digital camera to capture images of the shadows, but the photos were just indistinct blurs. The shadows seemed to shy away from the lens, as if they didn't want to be captured. David felt like the shadows were playing with him, testing his courage and determination. The mysterious voice continued to whisper in his mind, providing guidance on where to go and what to look for. She took him to forgotten rooms filled with dusty documents and broken furniture. In each room, David felt the presence of shadows, as if they were approaching him, only to move away when he turned to face them. As the night progressed, David realized that he was becoming more deeply involved in the mystery of the building. The mysterious voice urged him to continue, promising that he was about to discover something that would change his understanding of reality. Finally, the voice led him to a room on the top floor of the building. When he entered the room, he was surprised to find an old leather-bound book on the table. The book was open to a page that contained ancient symbols and writings. The voice whispered, "This is the book of forbidden knowledge. It contains secrets that are beyond human understanding. Read the words and discover the truth." David hesitantly began to read the words in the book aloud. As he spoke the ancient words, a strange and unsettling feeling came over him. The air around him seemed to grow heavier, and the shadows on the walls began to writhe and stir. As he continued to read, David realized he was triggering something he couldn't control. The entire building began to shake, as if reacting to the forbidden words he was reciting. The sound of dark laughter filled the air, and shadows gathered around him, taking on distorted and grotesque shapes. David struggled to close the book, but his hands were frozen in place. The mysterious voice, which now had a sinister tone, laughed in his mind, revealing its true nature. The voice said, "You have released something that cannot be controlled, David. This building is my prison, and you are my toy. Now, you belong to me." Desperate, David finally managed to close the book, but it was too late. The building was crumbling around him, shadows enveloping him like an ominous web. He ran towards the exit, struggling to escape the impending destruction. As he ran through the collapsing hallways, the shadows closed in on him, pulling him into the abyss. The building collapsed with a deafening crash, and darkness swallowed him. When David awoke, he was outside the ruined building, unharmed but with a profound sense of loss. The building was now in ruins, nothing more than rubble and wreckage. The mysterious voice had disappeared, leaving him alone in his wake. He knew he could never return to the abandoned building, which was now sealed in its own destruction. The shadows and secrets he had released were lost forever. David returned home, his digital camera empty of images, his mind full of unanswered questions. He could never fully understand what happened that night, but he knew he had experienced something beyond his understanding. The abandoned building remained a pile of rubble, a grim reminder that there are mysteries that humanity must not disturb. And David, now scarred by the experience, spent the rest of his life searching for answers he would never find, haunted by the mysterious voice that invited him to explore forbidden secrets of the abandoned office.